Hey there, Bill Miller. Video number 11, I think, in my little series of overcoming emotional and verbal abuse, being from the abuser side, not the abused side. Today, this is what I'm dealing with. That this one so far seems to be the most challenging for me to overcome of all the steps. And this isn't a step like in and of itself. This is just part of a step that is hard for me, and it sounds like for a lot of people we suffer from the same problem, challenges. So empathy. If you're at all like me, you've spent most of your life thinking mostly about yourself and how other people affect you, how their actions affect you, how this, that, or the other thing affects you. Things that you have no control over, they still affect you, and it annoys you, and you try to change. You don't try to change yourself, you try to change whatever is affecting you or bothering you. For me, just, in my relationship with my wife, whenever she did anything that I didn't understand or like, mostly didn't understand, I guess. Instead of trying to understand, I just tried to change it. That all by itself is abusive. Trying to change your partner in a way that your partner doesn't want to change, doesn't feel they need to change. They're not doing anything wrong. It's just you don't like it, so you try to change them. That's not love. That's not a partner. That's control, and that's a boss. And you can't have control and be a boss in any healthy relationship. It's all about support and empathy and forgiveness, trust. You can go on and on. Nowhere in there is it control, and nowhere in there is it abuse. If you're defining a healthy relationship, even you or me as an abuser, as a former abuser, even when I was abusive, I would describe a healthy relationship using all of the right words. Trust, respect, honor, love, forgiveness, grace. So many things that you feel and know in your head what a healthy relationship takes. You just don't know how to do it. You don't know how to get there. Well, going through all these steps and all this stuff is exactly what we're doing. We're figuring out how to get there, how to be able to show all the things that we know deep inside we need to show every single day in order to have a healthy relationship. And it doesn't mean we have to be perfect. It doesn't mean we can't get mad. It doesn't mean we can't have bad days. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just means we can't abuse anymore. We can't manipulate anymore. And that, we need to just get better at working on trusting and respecting and being empathetic. Empathetic is hard when you have spent most of your life thinking about yourself. People throw around the word narcissist all the time. I feel like it's a really overused word. I'm good with narcissistic tendencies, narcissistic behaviors, but like a true narcissist, maybe from my understanding, a true narcissist would be somebody that knows kind of what they're doing. I can say with all 100% honesty, I did not know what I was doing when I was abusing my wife. The next day, I could think back on it, and I would be filled with remorse and regret and sadness, like that I treated her that way. But when I was treating her, in the act of treating her with abuse, abusively, you don't know what you're doing other than you're just, you're unconsciously pushing them away, protecting yourself, making sure that you don't get hurt, all these stupid things that none of them work, but in our unconscious mind, that's all we know how to do. When we feel certain ways, or when we feel so close to someone that we start getting afraid that this person could crush our hopes and dreams and hearts. So you protect yourself by making sure they know that you're fine without them, and you can live, they can come or go and you're fine. But you're always thinking about yourself when you're being abusive. Otherwise you would never be abusive. I mean, that's a true story. If you're thinking about how your words and how your actions were being received by them and how bad it was hurting them when you did that, you wouldn't do it. So I personally think it's one of the most important things. Once you've gone through the first, 3 or 4 steps, I don't know if I should say 3 or 4 steps. Once you've gone through all the steps and you're working towards not ever being abusive again, that one's key. That one it literally changes your response and reaction to absolutely everything if you stop and think about how they are feeling. Not how you're feeling, how they are feeling. Like, why did she say that? Not, she said this and it pissed me off. That's always how we think. It's like, she said or did this, it pissed me off, and now I'm going to attack her. I'm going to criticize her or belittle her or make damn sure she knows that what she did was wrong. Like I'm some judge or her boss or some shit, But if you stop and just think about her and maybe why she did what she did, it changes everything. It's vital. Because most likely, almost every single time, she has a reason for doing what she did. And her reason was not to hurt you. It was sometimes even, her reason is she might not even know. But it's not to intentionally hurt the one she loves, I promise. Just like how we don't intentionally hurt the people that we abuse. We're not intentionally hurting them. But we are hurting them. So, like, even if what she does or did, she doesn't know why she did it. She just did it out of anger. It's still thinking about them, putting yourself in their shoes, and not just always how it affects you. It's hard. It's really hard to do. You have to, for me, the progress I've made on it, because my wife left me, it's very hard to work on certain things now that she's left me, because I don't get a practice. Not that I would use her as practice, but things would obviously be coming up on a daily, weekly basis or whatever if we were still living together and so forth. I would be able to work on all these things in real time and as they occur, and see that I'm getting better a lot more so than just reading and doing all the stuff that I'm doing, working on my reactions, working on my behaviors, just educating myself. That's all I'm doing right now. And then when I feel myself getting frustrated with a customer or an employee, then at that time I'm working on things like that one, especially is thinking about how it feels from their side. Doing this, it's not, maybe eventually it will become a reflex. That's what we're all aiming for. We're all aiming to change our behaviors. And at first, you always need to stop, take a minute, take a couple of minutes, and think about what you're doing and change your behaviors, change your reactions, change your reflexes. You can do that, by just, whatever you need to do or say to give yourself a couple of minutes. And when you do that, just the first thing I encourage you to do is just put yourself in their shoes and ask, why do I think they did that? Or simply, once you get yourself to where you're not reacting in an angry way or in a hurtful manner or an abusive manner, just ask, like, I don't understand why you did that or why you said that, because it came across as hurtful on my side. And I'm trying to understand why, so I can not feel hurt or sad or angry. So will you just kind of help me out with that, or whatever, your relationship is and how you would verbalize that. But not getting angry, and just out and lashing out at them, that just starts the abuse process. Once you start abusing, in a certain set, the minute you start abusing, it's really, really hard to pull back until you do damage. So just initially take that minute or two, think about how they're feeling, why they may have done that, why they may have said that. Try your hardest to empathize with them and what they're going through. I know my wife, when a couple of weeks after I discovered I was abusive, we were still together, and I was working hard at that, trying to put myself in her shoes before I said anything. And she was going through so much pain that she was lashing out. She was hurt. She was hurt, and she was showing me that she was hurt. And I was preparing myself mentally to endure these kind of painful moments that she's having, painful days that she's having, angry days that she's having, maybe for as long as it took, because when I put myself in her shoes, I don't know how bad she was hurting, but I know she was hurting, and I know that when she would lash out at me in anger and pain, instead of getting mad and saying, hey, you can't say that to me, or I'm not abusing you anymore, so you're not allowed to abuse me now, just take a minute and put yourself on her side and say, you know what, she's probably hurting pretty bad right now. Number one, like I stripped her of I took her smile away. I took her self-esteem, and and my wife is very strong and very smart. I didn't take her self-esteem, but boy, not for lack of trying, I'm ashamed of it. I hate that I can't even count, one thing that makes me sad. In my letter, I kind of referred to it, my letter I write her every night, is I'm really sorry to her. I wish I could tell her how sorry I am that I took her smile right off her face so many times with the way I treated her. And like, if I could trade that, just instead of taking the smile off her face, putting a smile on her face by the way I treat her, boy, what a difference that would make, So anyway, that's kind of why all I've got for the night. Empathy is a hard one. It's so important. It means a lot to them. I promise it means a lot to them when they see that you're trying to understand how they feel instead of always just thinking about how you feel. You've got to humble yourself a lot. For me, going back to church, there's nothing more humbling than me than kneeling down in a church and picturing myself kneeling like at the feet of Jesus. That's what I needed to do to humble myself, and that's what I am working on continually, is putting myself at his feet and humbling myself and realizing that whoever I'm talking to, he loves just as much as he loves me. He loves my wife every bit as he loves this, every bit as much as he loves me. She has her reasons for things. I have my reasons for things, but it's not all about me. So anyway, that's that. You'd see a big difference. You'll see a gigantic difference if you can master empathy.